Hi, 4th and 5th grade. It's Ms. Maney, and this is your second week of e-learning, and this is your music lesson for this week. We're going to be starting something new. So from now until the end of the year, from now until the end of May, we're going to be doing a unit about composers. And as you probably already know, a composer is somebody who writes music either by using musical notation, which is when we write using music notes on a staff, or by improvisation, which is when you make it up as you perform. Now, you've already composed for me. Remember when we did our hip hop and rap lesson? You composed your own rap. Everything that you wrote down on that paper came from your own head, okay? So you were the composer for that. And you've also done some improvisation for me before. Remember when we talked about jazz music? And we kind of talked about how sometimes you just sort of take the music and you throw it out the window. You kind of keep the same structure and the same ideas, but you make it up as you go. And we listened to a couple different improvisation solos as well when we were talking about jazz too. So we're going to be talking about composers, people who write the music. And perhaps this is you. Maybe you've been composing your own music or you plan to compose your own music. We'll see. So this week we're going to start with one composer, and his name is Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. You've probably heard of him, but maybe you aren't quite sure what he's done, and that's okay. You've definitely heard his music before, but perhaps just had no idea that it was by him, and that's okay too. But Mozart was a composer, and he was born in 1756 in Salzburg, Austria. He usually wrote music on the staff, like we've been doing the last couple of weeks. That's pretty much what he did. He didn't really play and improv too much. It was mainly just stuff that he knew how it was going to sound before he even wrote it down. Because he's been working with that staff so much. He knows those pitches so well. He knows the music so well that he could just write it out based on what he heard in his head. He thought of a melody and then he just wrote it out. It's kind of like when you think of a word to write, you just know how to write it. Okay? He just knew. He's been doing it enough. So even though Mozart was born in Salzburg, Austria, he ended up moving to Vienna, Austria to get a better job. And even though Salzburg and Vienna are both in Austria, they're actually like 184 or 5 miles apart. And remember, he was born in 1756. So even though it's less than 200 miles away, traveling is not as easy at that time as it is now. Okay, so that's quite a travel that he had to take. Now, Mozart was a very talented musician and a very talented composer. He was so talented that he wrote his first piece. He composed his first piece of music by the age of 4. That's before you're even in kindergarten, because you start kindergarten at the age of 5. So when he was 4 years old, he was already writing music. By the time he was 6, so you turn 6 when you're in kindergarten. By the time he was 6, he was already performing music concert tours for royal families throughout Europe. He was performing a tour at the age of 6. Could you imagine? I think it's crazy. Now, remember when I said that Mozart was born in 1756? That time period, that period in music history, we now call that the classical period. It's the period between 1750 and 1820. And a lot of that music that was composed around that time was very clear, very catchy, easy to remember, kind of sticks in your head for a while. In fact, one of his pieces is so catchy and you've already sang it a lot of times. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But Mozart was a short man and he had a higher singing voice. We called him a tenor. He worked very hard and he would spend a lot of time working on his music. He wrote over 600 pieces of music, and he's considered one of the most important composers of all time. His most famous works include things like Eine kleine Nachtmusik, such as this. Let's play it. That probably sounds familiar. He also wrote The Marriage of Figaro, which might sound familiar. Let's see. Yeah? He also wrote The Magic Flute, and this might sound familiar. Does that sound familiar? So he's written a lot of pieces of music that we've been hearing for a long time, and maybe we just didn't really know what it was, and that's okay. However, my most favorite piece that he composed, and it's actually probably your favorite piece that he's composed as well, you just didn't realize that he wrote it, it's called 12 Variations à vous diriger maman. I don't even know if I said that right. We know it as Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Sound familiar? I bet. Did you know that the melody that is used in Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is the same melody that we sing if we were to sing the ABCs? Or the same melody that we would use if we were to sing Baba Black Sheep? What's a melody? Melody is basically the tune or the notes that we sing or play to make a song. Basically, if we were to sing those songs but hum it instead of actually use the words, they would sound exactly the same because they have the same melody. Or if I were to play it on the piano, if I played each of those songs on the piano, they would sound exactly the same because the melody is exactly the same. Let's try it out. Come on over. So, here's my piano. Whoop, we're gonna turn it on. If I were to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, look at my notes. Here's where I'm playing. Twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are. That makes sense, right? Now, what if I were to play the ABCs? Let's try it again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That makes sense too. And what if I were to play Baba Black Sheep? Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. Did you notice anything? I played the exact same song every time. It's the same melody. It's the same tune. We just put different words with it, and that's why we know it as different songs, but they're actually not different at all. So you have an assignment from me. Your assignment, don't worry, it's nothing too hard, but I want you to listen to that melody again. If you have the ability to search some more songs on YouTube, you can just search for Mozart, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and perhaps it'll come up and you can listen to it. It just sounds like this. So keep listening to it. We've used this song as an example in the past. First, we used it when we learned about form. Do you remember what that means? In case you forgot, form is how we structure music, how we set it up. We talked about the form of this piece when we learned about form. My hint to you is that you can think of it as same, different, same. Think about that. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. That's how it starts. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. That middle part is different than how it started, right? But then, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Same, different, same. What did we call that form? What was that called? It had a special name to it. Hopefully the reminder of same, different, same will help you think of it. We also used this piece an example when we learned about major and minor keys. This was back in October. Major usually sounds happy, and minor usually sounded sad, depressed, or creepy. We used it around Halloween time because we noticed that a lot of music that you would play around Halloween was in a minor key. It was spooky, it was dark. So is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, was that an example that we used for a major key or a minor key? Think about it. So here's your assignment. Imagine that Mozart was alive today and he told you that he was going to stop composing music. He was sick of it. He just didn't feel worthy. I don't know. He just wants to stop. He's telling you this. So what are 3 things that you would say to Mozart to persuade him to continue writing music? You could write it down if you want, or you could just think of it. If you need to go back and listen to more of this video and think of who Mozart was and maybe why we should care, go back and check it out again, okay? But that is your assignment. You don't have to submit anything to me. I just want you to think about it. Why is he important? Why would we even need to study him? Okay? I will talk to you again in a week when it's time for another lesson. I hope you are doing really well. I hope you had a wonderful spring break, that you've been staying in your homes or in your yards. I hope you are taking time to relax. Maybe spend a little extra time with people you love, your family, or whoever you live with. But I also hope you're spending a little time with your homework as well, okay? And I will talk to you in a week. Bye.